Dear friends, welcome back to my channel. Let's read. From the timeless collection of R.M. Rajgopal, let's read Full Circle. Let's begin with the story. It is a Sunday in early March. The mild Calcuttan winter is slipping its way relentlessly into the stifling months ahead. But it is still comfortable enough. The day is cloudless, bright, and clear, with a mild breeze blowing the wafts its way into my room, gently ruffling the thin half curtains that drape the window. The house is quiet, and I am thankful for that as I try to concentrate on the book that lies open in front of me on the table. My exams are just a fortnight away. The very idea of their proximity gives me the jitters, for as Pa keeps telling me, it is imperative that I do well. A little sacrifice now will be more than worth its while, for my future will largely depend on how I perform. This has meant compulsory confinement to the apartment, a kind of house arrest that I have chosen to undergo these last 2 weeks or so, which is why there is no cricket game this Sunday, no strolling along Park Road later in the evening with my friends, eyeing its younger female denizens hopefully. No sneaking a beer or two shared between the four of us at the bar at the corner of College Street. Having arrived home just in time for dinner, there is no time to wash out the remnants of a mouthful of pan in the basin in the corridor of the rear of dining room, hoping that my breath doesn't exude the odor of beer. I keep a safe distance from the rest of the folks all the while, especially Jaya, whose olfactory organs are extra sensitive. I'm sure if Pa at all he gets to know is merely going to shrug his shoulders and say to himself, boys will be boys, because I'm certain he did all this and more in his time. Besides, he like his tot in the evenings now. But best not to take avoidable risk anyway. Which briefly is why I am at my desk in my room this balmy morning. Just perfect cricket weather. Trying hard to concentrate, and I'm nervous, for 2 years of syllabus remains to be persuaded, and I berate myself mentally and think if only I hadn't left everything for the last minute, if only I had shown some discipline. However, am I going to get through all this? I won't do well, I'm sure, and then there will be hell to pay. I don't seem to be able to remember anything at all, especially Eco 2. Oh, which is what I am plowing through at the moment, or trying to at least. Who had the time to be in class so late each day when there were so many important things to do? More important and more interesting. The words seemed to come unstuck in my mind seconds after I read them, and I berate myself all the more, for Pa isn't the interfering type, and he likes to believe that I am the responsible sort and capable of looking after myself. But I know what it is going to be like if I do badly. Pa is a bit of stiff upper lip and perhaps a little taciturn, too comes from being an ex army man, compounded probably by his working now for his Brit outfit. His fuse is long, but I know from the experience that when he blows, the pyrotechnics can be daunting. But I feel thirsty just then, and I get up from my desk and walk through the door towards the fridge in the dining room. As I pour myself a glass of water, I hear Pa moving about in living room. I can see him from where I stand, and he is all dressed to go out. Lunch someplace, I suppose. Chilled. Chilled beer and lamb with mint sauce. Now that I like, I cannot wait to finish college and get myself a job somewhere. Maybe in one of the tea gardens out in Assam, where life is interesting and the living is enjoyable. So I am given to believe. The doorbell rings just then, and I wonder who it could be, for we aren't expecting anybody. All entertaining have been deferred for a while so that I won't be distracted. Ma and Jaya are out visiting. Folks didn't normally just land up without telephoning beforehand. Pa opens the door, and he yes, is not unfriendly, but I'm almost certain that it doesn't sound someone he knows. May I come in for a moment, sir? The voice isn't familiar. Curiosity makes me step into the living room. On the way back to my desk, there is a youngish man at the door, dressed in the green grey of the Indian Army, lieutenant's pips on his shoulders. His uniform is neat and well pressed, the brass shiny, his black shoes gleaming. A few years older than me at best, 25. He is fair, with thick black hair combed back, long, but not long enough to break any regulations. He has pleasant features. Please do. What can I do for you? My father steps aside and the visitor comes in. My name is Sujit Wadhwa, sir. I am a lieutenant in the army. I can see that, young man. I am an army man myself. Took premature retirement soon after the war a few years ago. What is the problem? I got to Calcutta only this morning, sir. I am Mr. Kohli's nephew. You probably know him. He stays on the ground floor. Our block of apartments is three-storied and each floor has two large airy flats. We live on the first floor and the Kohlis live directly below us. It is not that the Kohlis are our close friends or anything, but Pa knows Mr. Kohli reasonably well, for they played bridge together at the club once in a while. Yes, I do know Mr. Kohli, but he is away with his family on holiday, Pa says. Yes, sir, that's the problem. I have my bags outside their door. I was planning to wash and change and go to the station to try and get on the Howrah mail in the evening. You see, I hadn't been sanctioned my leave, and then all of a sudden, my CO changed his mind. We are posted on the NEFA border. Sir, so there was no way to make any booking in advance. That is no problem. You can bath and change here if you wish so, said Pa. No, no, sir, said the lieutenant. I can't impose myself on you like this. Oh, it is no trouble at all, says Pa. In fact, I absolutely insist. The lieutenant relents reluctantly. He pauses for a moment, scratches the back of his head, and gulps. There is something else, sir. I don't quite know how to put it. It is so embarrassing. Never mind. What is it? Pa is solicitous. Such a pleasant young man, so well mannered. The army still selects well. I can almost read his thoughts. I had my pocket picked, sir, of all things, this morning on the way out of Howrah. Neat job. Didn't feel a thing. But you know how crowded the place is. You are constantly being jostled around. Pretty foolish of me. I suppose letting my wallet remain in my hip pocket. You won't be the last, replies Pa with a short laugh. It happened to me a couple of years back. Same place. I had gone to see off my sister. I had a tenner in my shirt pocket, says the lieutenant. Can't for the life of me remember when or why I placed it here. Lucky though that I had. That is how I managed to take a taxi here. Sorry, sir, but that is the way it is. Happens to the best of us, as I said. But don't worry, maybe I can lend you some money. You can always return it on the way back to the unit. The Kohlis will surely be back by then. I'm most obliged, sir, says the lieutenant. How much does a ticket to Delhi cost? Pa asks. 100 rupees, sir. But that is for a first class ticket. Maybe I can manage a seat in second. About 50 or something, maybe. An officer? And in second? That wouldn't look good for you. Pa pulls out his wallet. Here, you better keep a couple of hundred extra. That will see you through comfortably. And be careful, please. Not in your hip pocket, not at Howrah at least. I don't know how to thank you, says the lieutenant. Maybe Jaideep can come with you to the station. You can manage that, can't you, son? He is waiting for any little reason to abandon his books. I am sure he'll be most willing. He smiles at me. And have lunch before you go. I have to go out myself, but Leela, that is my wife, will be back shortly. Why don't you get your bags up from the Kohli's floor? Jaideep, do help him. We went together to pick up a suitcase and a weather-beaten hold, all, and just as we get back, Ma and Jai return and are introduced. I show the lieutenant the spare bedroom where he baths and changes, emerging in a little white, in a deep green t-shirt, tan slacks, and brown suede loafers. He is lithe and muscular, and Jaya can't take her eyes off. He makes himself comfortable in the living room as he lounges on the single seater, Jaya seated, opposite to him to the right, eyeing him wistfully. Pa had asked me before he had left for lunch to be sure to offer him a beer. He says yes, and I pour him a large pewter mug full. As he takes it from me, he asks me if I wouldn't join him. Jaya has to pipe in just then, and thank God, Ma is out of the earshot in the kitchen. I am ready to strangle her. I am. He does, she says. He does actually, but he's afraid to hear because of Ma. She giggles. The lieutenant refuses to be drawn into taking sides. Never mind, he says. You'll be getting a job soon, I'm sure. Then you will be on your own. It is a good thing. In any case, not to overdo these things while you are in college. Once in a while, it is okay. Too often may not be advisable. I nod at him. What do you plan to do after college? He asks. I'm not very certain yet. My father wants me to sit for the competitive exams, but I am not sure if that is my cup of tea. Ever thought of joining the army? Not really. It isn't a bad place to be. Actually, life is a bit nomadic, but soon you get used to it. On the whole, I would say that things are quite good here. Even in a remote place like Nefa, more than anything else, the excitement can be exhilarating. The lieutenant leans forward. What is the army if you haven't smelled death through your nostrils? Right? I haven't been in a war yet, but Nefa is bad enough. He pauses. Just around 10 days ago, for example, I was leading a patrol and we were returning to camp around 5 miles away. They were waiting for us around the halfway mark. Daylight was fading, and so spotting them was difficult. The first shot that was fired went whistling past the side of my head, a quarter of an inch to the right, and who knows, I may not have been here talking to the two of you. We lost 2 men that evening. It is a dangerous life, but it is worth every minute of it if you have a bit of daredevil in you. The pay is good too. I'm enjoying myself quite a lot actually. He is quite the rancourtier, polite and pleasant as well. Even Ma is bowled over. As for Jaya, the kind of moony eyes that she is making, she won't hear the last of this from me. Not in a long time. He has a healthy appetite too, or maybe you don't get very much to eat on the slow trains that come in from the east. Anyway, the hillside's turned over to the perfection. The curried mutton is just right. It isn't just the lieutenant who eats well. I do too, as if to celebrate this unexpected holiday, and maybe also to quell the unease that is hovering within me, a result of the inevitability of the fact that I would have to work doubly hard to make up for the lost time. It is not long after lunch that it is time for him to go, and he does so after Ma and Jaya make him promise that he would spend time with us on the way back, perhaps join us for a meal. He promises them that he would take, and he takes leave of them at the door. I walk down the stairs with him, carrying his suitcase for him. When we reach the courtyard and are walking down the cemented path that leads to the gate, he looks at his watch and turns me to say, You don't really have to come with me. It is nearly 3 in the afternoon, and I know what exams are like. Why don't you go back and settle down with your books? I say no, that Pa had said that I should go, but he's persuasive, and I agree in the end and watch him as he turns the corner on the road past our house, lugging his suitcase and our rather scruffy hold all. When I return so soon, Ma and Jaya aren't pleased, and when I tell them that he had insisted, they say that I ought to have gone nevertheless. Such a nice chap, so pleasant, so well mannered, and so handsome also. I whisper to Jaya in an aside and get scratched on my arm with those long tattoos of her. Heaven knows why she grows her nails so long. They look positively ludicrous if you ask me. The day passes with me confined to my room and my table. During the weeks that follow, with the high voltage tension of the exams and with the whole family rallying around me, even Jaya, the lieutenant is forgotten. The Kohlis are back a couple of weeks later, and Pa mentions the lieutenant to Mr. Kohli casually at the club one evening. but elicits only a blank look. Pa doesn't inquire any further, and neither do any of the rest of us, and there is no sign of Lieutenant on his way back east. The subject isn't brought up after that, but as Pa says to me, the only time we talk about it, such a nice young man. Must have been misunderstanding of some sort somewhere. The weather is just perfect, as it is sometimes at this time of the year. It is a November morning, 25 years into time, and I am in Delhi, an Assam refugee of sorts. Pa has journeyed some time ago into the pale blue yonder, and Ma has too, a couple of years earlier. Jaya is married and far away in the US, and she seemed to have changed one bit. She's as precocious as she always was, at least with me. Ranjana, my wife, and Usha, my daughter, are out shopping. Ranjit, my son, is out playing cricket. A lovely day for a full day's game. The sun bright yet mild. The breeze gentle and soothing. I am idling through a magazine watching for lunchtime, sipping a glass of cold beer, uncertain about what to do. The doorbell rings. Who could it be? I wonder to myself. We aren't expecting anyone, and folks normally didn't just land up before telephoning beforehand. I peer through the eyeglass fixed into the door and see a man there, mid-50s, wearing an army uniform. I open the door and say, Yes. Not in an unfriendly fashion, the kind of tone you use with someone you don't know. And the man says, May I come in for a moment, sir? Now, you don't let strangers into your home in Delhi, not unless you have a strong instinct for suicide, and so I didn't step aside or invite him in, but stand at the door and ask him what he wants, and he says, My name is Sujit Wadhwa, sir. I am a major in the army. And I stare at him, unbelieving, and the features fall into places as the frame emerges clear and true from the wreckage of my memory. Lieutenant Wadhwa at the door, smiling a little doubtfully at my father, the lieutenant with a mug of beer in his hand, lounging on Ma's single-seater upholstered in deep maroon corduroy, the lieutenant as he gesticulates in the middle of a narrative, emphasizing something, the lieutenant looking back and waving as he turns to the street corner. The look that I gave him is strange or disconcerting, or both, for he mutters, and excuse me, turns and hurries down the driveway. Ranjana arrives at just that moment and parks the car outside, and Usha climbs down and is opening the gate. As Usha opens the gate, the lieutenant walks straight out, and the last I see him is he trudges down the road in CR Park on his balmy early winter afternoon, lugging along a suitcase and a rather scurfy hold all. Dear friends, this is the end of the story. Please stay tuned for another such story. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe the channel. Thank you.